Welcome back. So what is Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida? They are public-private partnerships. Enterprise Florida was created by Governor Rick Scott and the legislature in 2011 with the goal of creating jobs by reaching out to out-of-state companies and executives to relocate to the Sunshine State by offering a total of $85 million a year in incentives. Visit Florida lures tourists to the state by marketing Florida across the country and around the world. It has a budget of $25 million a year. And joining us for more on the funding fight is Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer, and joining us by Skype from Aspen, Colorado is Jesse Biter. He is on the board of directors for Enterprise Florida. He is taking time away from his vacation to be with us tonight to talk to us about this very important issue. And Jesse, I know the political climate is cold here in Florida. I don't know if it is as cold out on the ski slopes of Colorado, but thanks for joining us. Let me start by asking you this, because I take it Speaker Corcoran's position is that Enterprise Florida is basically corporate welfare, that we shouldn't be basically bribing out-of-state companies to come to Florida. When you hear arguments like that, what's your response?
Well, it's working. Enterprise Florida is working. If it wasn't working, then our governor has been very successful with it, wouldn't be supporting it, wouldn't be pushing it. The reality is you can look at the Space Coast and look at SpaceX and OneWeb satellites and Amazon.com's Blue Origin. I mean, they're there because of Enterprise Florida, because of Space Florida, because of the incentives that we're able to put in front of them. And unlike a lot of states, we don't just say, here's a big check, come to our state. There's a lot of other things we do. And if it takes money, then we use money at the very end to sweeten the deal. But we don't write checks nearly the size of other states. And most importantly, they don't get any of that money until they've done the things that we've agreed to have them do. So they have to create enough number of jobs. They have to invest enough money in the infrastructure. They have to do all these things. And then once they've done that and years have gone by, that money sitting in escrow becomes theirs. And the most important point is we're paying people with money that we wouldn't otherwise have. We're paying them back a portion of their tax dollars. We're not taking money away from schools or anywhere else. We're paying them back their money.
You know, both of you gentlemen were there when Speaker Corcoran came to Sarasota recently to make his case. Mark, it does sound logical. If you want to make money, you got to spend money.
I think that is logical, but I think the flip side and sort of what Speaker Corcoran would say is, why are we in that business to begin with? Why are we in the business of deciding who gets funds and who doesn't get funds and which companies are sort of favored? I mean, they throw around that phrase, you know, picking winners and losers, and I think to an extent that there's some truth to that.
Well, is there an allegation here that there is favoritism in terms of some companies will be offered those incentives, and then maybe, you know, if it's a company or a CEO that maybe not on the same political, you know, aisle as the governor or Enterprise Florida, they're less likely to get those incentives?
I don't know if it's as political as much as, you know, Speaker Corcoran used the example, and other people have as well, about Hertz in Estero in Lee County. And the main reason they wanted to come here is because the CEO in New Jersey wanted to live in Naples. And so Hertz moved here, and they got a lot of incentives to do so. Does that make sense? I'm not really sure that that's the right use that Jesse's talking about.
Jesse, there's been a great debate in Florida over the last few years, not only about incentives used for businesses, but it also extends to incentives for the film industry, incentives for sports stadiums, that it seems like the mood of the legislature is not offering those incentives any longer. You know, so I would imagine that Governor Scott has really quite an argument to try to turn that tide.
Well, as a fiscal conservative myself, I wholeheartedly agree that the government shouldn't be in this business. The problem we have is that other states are in this business. And so the option is either we're in the business or we lose these companies coming here. You know, that's hearsay about Hertz, but there's 400 employees in Florida now, and those employees are buying homes and shopping at the stores and frequenting other businesses and using lawn services and everything else that supports the entire economy. So even though incentives might not directly go to various small businesses, those people being here and that company being in Florida is a great thing for that area. And the Space Coast is a great example of it. If you go over there, you see an area that was decimated when NASA pulled out and is now starting to build again and starting to come back, and home values are going up.
There is so much more to get to. Our discussion of Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida continues in a moment, but right now, let's get a check on our weather right after we go to a break. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. The House voted to eliminate Enterprise Florida and slash funding to Visit Florida. Governor Scott is vowing to fight to maintain funding for both agencies. Here's for how the change could impact us here on the Suncoast is Mark Gordon of the Business Observer, and joining us by Skype is Jesse Bider, a member of Enterprise Florida's Board of Directors. And Mark, let me ask you this. I mean, tourism is so huge here on the Suncoast. There are a lot of options for tourists around the country and around the world to go. So doesn't Florida have to spend money to tell people in other parts of the country or in Europe or wherever that the Sunshine State is the place to be?
Clearly, I mean, no doubt. The reporting I've done, talking to people both in Visit Sarasota and in Tampa Bay region as well, they both understand that you need to spend money to be able to draw these visitors in. And I think there's a difference in some of the business owners. They feel like maybe Visit Florida should be kept, whereas Enterprise Florida doesn't have as much favor, as much love.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do this story is because there is such a local connection to the arguments. Jesse, you are on the board of directors for Enterprise Florida, and we got to talk about it. You went after two local members of our legislative delegation who were siding with the speaker, of course, Julio Gonzalez and Alex Miller. You wrote an op-ed. They responded to that. Has it gotten personal, or have you talked to them since the competing op-ed pieces?
Well, I have spoken with them. Well, I shouldn't say spoken. I've communicated with them, and I did speak with Jim Boyd. I'm very disappointed in Jim Boyd's vote as well. Yeah, I mean, these folks come to me and others in the community and say, look, I want to run for this office, and this is what I believe in. And I always ask the question, do you believe in business? Do you believe in helping the Florida economy grow? Do you want more people here and businesses to thrive? And the answer is always yes. And then I specifically ask about Enterprise Florida, and the answer is yes, I support Enterprise Florida. And then to see them get elected and go up there and vote against it was very disappointing.
Mark, what kind of political pressures were on Representative Gonzalez and Miller to support the speaker? But on the other hand, you have Joe Gruters, who is a new state representative who is sticking with the governor.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic in Tallahassee. When I wrote about it a few weeks ago for the Business Observer, I talked to several state reps who have been sort of involved in Tallahassee for a long time. And they said it puts a lot of pressure on, especially freshman representatives like Alex Miller, Julio Gonzalez, to vote the line of the speaker, but also know that they're doing something that's against the governor. And so that created a strange dynamic for them, for sure.
Have you ever seen anything like this in terms of Republican Party politics?
I have not, but mostly the people I've talked to in doing the reporting, people like former State Senator Mike Bennett, who's now in Manatee County, he said he's never seen this as well, this sort of firestorm, even before the session started.
So, Jesse, what do you do next time, Representative Gonzalez and Miller are up for re-election? I would imagine you agree with them about a whole host of other issues, but have you permanently severed your support from them?
Well, Joe Gruters, I give a ton of credit to. He's done an amazing job. He's doing an amazing job. Alex, after I reached out to her and after our back and forth, she's come around. She supported it in the last vote in the House, so that was good. And I'll continue to support Alex. I think I think sometimes we make decisions that we don't really see through, and so she changed her mind, and I appreciated that. Julio's another story. If an opponent comes out in a Republican primary and says, "Look, I support Enterprise Florida. I support bringing business and tourism to Florida," then I'll support that person.
Where does this all go from here? We were talking in the break about what's likely to happen in the legislature. Just like in Congress, it has to pass the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate, where you would assume that it would be vetoed by the governor. So in the end, Jesse, do you think that both Enterprise Florida will survive and that funding won't be slashed to Visit Florida?
I never thought it would get this far. So I'm disappointed to see that it's gotten this far, and I don't want to speculate on where I think it's going to go. I hope that it does survive. Look, there's always room for improvement. And the things Richard Corcoran was talking about, those are things that happened in 06, 07, 08, long before Rick Scott became our governor and changed the program to make it make it so companies had to perform before they got paid. At the end of the day, we're only paying people with the money we would otherwise not have. That's the most important point in this. So I really hope that the Senate is strong and that Enterprise Florida can live on. And let's make it better, but let's not get rid of it.
Mark, what is Speaker Corcoran? I don't want you to speak for Speaker Corcoran, but you have talked to him about this and you've written about this. What is his philosophical opposition, aside from picking winners and losers, but more simply trying to get more business to come into to Florida and tourism? What is his philosophical opposition to that?
I think it's clearly he goes back to sort of picking winners and losers and why do we choose this company as opposed to that company. I mean, this is the guy, Speaker Corcoran, who told me, he admired Davy Crockett. Why did he admire Davy Crockett? Because he went, into the Alamo and told the governor to go to hell, and he likes that kind of battle strong story. And I think, there's definitely speculation about that he'll make a run for governor at some point in the near future as well. So I'm sure that plays a role. But I do think he has a firm belief to sort of eliminate any type of corporate welfare.
Jesse, that was actually my next question. We have less than a minute left, but do you think that part of the Speaker's opposition is a planned run for governor and positioning himself?
100% yes. We are talking less than 0.5% of Florida's budget. The only reason he's doing this is because he knows the governor loves Enterprise Florida. He knows that the governor ran as a jobs governor to create 700,000 jobs in 7 years, and he's done over 1.2 million jobs. So he's attacking Enterprise Florida for that reason.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about the biggest policy change at the Sarasota Police Department in 3 decades. Welcome back. Governor Scott gives credit for job creation and a record number of tourist numbers to Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida, but do we need to spend tens of millions of dollars of funding those agencies? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. We have 2 minutes. Jesse, I'm going to start with you. Make your case for why these programs work.
Well, it's simple. We have a governor who comes from the business world as opposed to a speaker who's been a career politician. Rick Scott has gone to California, he's gone to Connecticut, he's gone to New York, and he's gone to those states to say, you need to move your business to Florida. Enterprise Florida is a tool in his toolbox to help make the case and get those companies here. And we have over 1.2 million jobs since he's been governor that have been created with his hard work along with those in the rest of the state. And for that reason, we need to keep Enterprise Florida here to help keep that momentum going.
Mark, is the momentum on whose side at this point? What is Speaker Corcoran thinking?
I think that Speaker Corcoran's thinking the momentum is on his side, especially with such a supermajority in the House of Representatives and what he's able to accomplish there. I mean, obviously with the Senate, I think is a little bit more lukewarm on it, and obviously Governor Scott's going to veto whatever bill's in front of him. So I think there'll be some more compromise to come in this.
So in essence, can Speaker Corcoran lose the war but win the battle if he has future ambitions?
He certainly can. I think that from a fiscal conservative standpoint, he comes out looking pretty good on this fight.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic, a new patrol policy at the Sarasota Police Department. Last month, Chief Bernadette DePino announced officers will now patrol all parts of the city alone. In the past, 2 officers were required to be in the vehicle for zones 2 and 3. That's Newtown and North Trail south of Indian Beach Drive. The police union says it will jeopardize safety. And here's what some of you are saying. Karen Bravey writes, this is ridiculous. Totally disagree. You cannot put a dollar amount on our officers' lives. At the very least, there should be 2 officers together in higher crime areas. John Wesley White writes, single officer patrols have been commonplace for more than 50 years. Of course, it's nice to have someone else to talk to on every shift, but that shouldn't drive policy. And Tina Vollmer writes, the answer is inadequate staffing, not the illusion of coverage described as visibility. It's a false sense of security for the community and dangerous for our officers. What do you think about funding for Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida? Let us know by visiting our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, want to watch past Roundtable discussions? They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight. Mark Gordon is the managing editor for the Business Observer, and Jesse Bider is on the board of directors for Enterprise Florida. He joined us by Skype. When we return, more than half of our residents on the Suncoast receive Social Security benefits, but could you be at risk of getting scammed? We'll show you how to protect yourself in our For Your Benefits segment. Plus, not cool, Snoop. Florida Senator Marco Rubio says the West Coast rapper is sending a dangerous message with a new music video. We'll find out why in our prime time headlines.